Okay, guys, welcome to SEN Stream. We're a little bit late this morning because I had some issues with dropping off my Boris bike.
And I've been teaching.
Yeah, well, it's because we're doing a job, and I've been being late. So I thought I'd start this week's SEN Stream just by having an opportunity for Claire to come in. So Claire's the module leader for Concepts and Principles of Nutrition, and you will obviously have your coursework 1 coming up, which is your critical essay. So what I thought I'd take the opportunity to do is just get Claire in the room and just find out a little bit more about how you guys can improve your mark, make sure that you don't make any common errors and mistakes, and just basically optimize this first coursework so that you get the most out of it. So I'm going to open up the questions to Claire. Now I will be flicking through to the chats to the chat function as well. So if you have a burning question that you've not had a chance to ask Claire about until this point, then ask it on the chat function. We'll flick between it in between different questions, and we'll just see if there's any burning questions that you guys have got. So, Claire, how can the SEN students do the best that they possibly can on this assessment?
Well, that's easy, actually. Well, one of the first things is you've already all come back to me now with your topic area, which is really, really important. A lot of the feedback I've given you on that, and it's not just SEN, it's everyone, is refine down, have a specific question that you want to address. So if you don't have a specific question, you're not going to find the right papers. You're not going to have an answer to your question. So what I've said to them all is the calorie broken, obviously one that a lot of people are interested in. Well, in what scenario? So are you I don't know, 42-year-old female who's had 3 kids or 2 kids and trying to lose the weight afterwards and using exercise to do that? What are you eating? Why is it not working? How long have you been doing? What foods are you eating? That sort of thing. If you're refining down to that 42-year-old, you've automatically got an age group that you're focusing in on. You're also looking at pregnancy or post-pregnancy. So you're starting to refine the papers you're looking for. If you've got a really strong question with a good PICO, you're quizzing.
Perfect. Excellent. So obviously you might have seen various different essays been submitted before, particularly on the concepts essay from previous years. So what would you say, what are some of the most common issues and common mistakes that student makes when they do an essay?
Yeah, well, for me, it's about losing the thread. So when you start with a question, you have to introduce why the question's interesting. So your introduction's all about relevance. Why is this an important question? It doesn't need to be long. If it's too long, you lose all the chance to get the marks from the critique aspects in the middle. So getting that question surfaced and rationalized at the start is really important. Whatever you then bring in has to be tied back to that question. So keeping it together with that thread, that spiral. Or I think I said to everybody before, you got your notebook, this is your thread, this is your question, there's your answer. Everything else comes back. The other thing that people do wrong is focus on specific papers. So this paper by Mike Newell did this, found this. This one by Sanjoy Deb did this, found this. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear what the balance of evidence is. So you find 8 papers, 10 papers, 12 papers. What did they all say?
Yeah.
You know, of those 12, did all of them agree, or did one say the wrong thing or something different? And do you understand why?
Yeah. I find the same, especially when I read some of the protein feeded essays last year. But what I found students were tending to do is just listing off all these different results from different studies, but they never had that crucial 2 or 3 sentences at the end of the paragraph which brought that synthesis together and just kind of said, this is what it means.
Yeah.
And in your mind, typically when students write essays, it's in your mind, it'll be very clear like what you mean. Whereas when somebody else reads it, we're not inside your head. So you need to be explicit. And if it feels like you're sort of stating the obvious, sometimes that can be a good thing. It means that you're... So, any final top tips that you can offer our students?
I would say that if you're reading something and you're finding it really tough, there's pointless putting it into a review, because if you can't critique it, if you don't understand it, you can't know what's working and what's not working. And if you spend too long on one paper trying to work it out, you've lost time that you could be spending finding other papers and reviewing those. Sometimes when you're not understanding, there's something wrong with the way the paper is written, or it's not doing what you wanted it to do to review. So I would always say plan your essay first. Okay. So know exactly what you want to say at the start. Once you've got a good idea of the research that you're reading, you should know what your conclusion is. And then you need to make sure your methods and your results feed into that. You should also have a really strong rationale for why you're asking that specific point in the question or the introduction, and answer that at the end. So you can show how we can learn more as we move forward, which is really key. The other thing I would say is don't be too hit on numbers. It doesn't matter whether it's 12 papers or 8 papers, as long as you're reviewing them and not just describing them. That's a really, really key point. And reference, back things up. If something's increased, what was it? What did it become? Give us the data.
What reference manager you use?
Oh, I was a reference manager girl, but now I use RefWorks. They don't do reference manager here, which is still an issue.
So for those that you don't use a reference manager, so a reference manager is a piece of software that allows you to store all of your references, and then when you want to generate a reference bibliography section, it will generate it for you. Reference manager is a piece of software. So my supervisor, because Claire's getting on a bit, she's really old. Like, it's okay.
21
fine. Again. The bright, young, bushy-tailed, you know, hardened, seasoned academic. I'm joking. I'll get grief for this afterwards.
You will.
The Ref Manager has been there a while, but now we've got things like Mendeley. We've got RefWorks, which is supported by the library. So if you are struggling with it,
it is good. And it is actually, it's supported in lots of different ways. So where I'm asking you to do it in Harvard, I want it, you know, Newell et al. Said this, or Newell and colleagues. I do not want Vancouver. I hate Vancouver with a number. So make sure you use RefWorks, or, you know, do it by hand if you want to, but make sure you use the names.
I think just the reason I mentioned the reference manager, it's been brought up, is that it's really good to start now, so that when you get to writing your thesis, where you're going to have in excess of 100, 200 references, that you're going to have to handle them somehow. And if you're doing it manually, you're wasting time. You could be spending that time doing data collection, doing your analysis, improving your section and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So should we head over and see if we've got any questions?
Yeah, please. Let's see.
Okay, let's just have a quick swip over. Now, I've not optimized the cameras, guys, so I do apologize, but we've got a question. Okay?
Good.
So if you want to come center a point.
Okay, so I can read it.
Yeah, so
I'm old, I can't see.
I don't know if it's just me, but the volume seems to be a bit low. Can you turn it up a little bit, please? Sorry, my bad. I fixed it. Ignore me.
Oh, well, that's fine. I can answer that one. Well done.
Madeline, do you have a question about the concepts essay? That would be super. I think the volume issue could be because we're sharing a microphone, and we're set back. So but thank you for raising it. At least we then know. Is there anything else you want to add? What's coming up next week in concepts, Claire?
Well, this week you've got I'm trying to think. It's fats and carb. No, it's not carbohydrates because you're doing that. It's fats and proteins today with Jessica and with Teddy. Do you know, I'm so good. I haven't got my concept stuff with me. So what we're really going to be looking at is trying to
I tell you, I'm going to change track a little bit, because what I've got here is the marks, the overall marks from the first assessment, and that was something I was going to go through. So this is exactly what you sent me. Do you want to talk through?
Absolutely.
Just bear with me. I'm just going to. I'm sorry, guys. I was late in this morning. It's just all going wrong. But let's go into this. Hope these guys will be able to see.
Okay.
So if I just pop this on. There we go.
Okay. So in the module, we've got 71 of you enrolled to do the module. Some of them, I've since found out after sending feedback on their marks and things, have decided to do something else where it was an elective. But of those of you who attempted the quiz, some of the questions were a bit mean. I have to be honest. They weren't intent. Well, come on, we want to stretch you. We want to see what you know and whether or not you can go back to first principles. So what we found was that the average mark was just over 50%. A lot of what I covered in that quiz was really trying to work out whether you had decent GCSE background in physiology. So did you know what the key organs were that were involved in metabolism, for example? Because if you don't know them and we say, well, something's gone wrong, what's happening where, really has a massive implication to the way that our diet can be utilized within the body. So one of the things, there was a couple of things actually that were brought up in class by sports nutritionists in terms of the differences between UK, US, Australasian type background. So when you're thinking about, for example, the food groups, it was a mean question. I don't know whether I would be able to tell you what the 5 food groups were, but ultimately, as you're looking through them, you should be able to use first principles to sort of knock things out and say it's definitively not that one. The senses, for example, food is not just something that we shove in our mouths and eat. Possibly it is a little bit too much in some groups of the population, But when you're thinking about it, when you're thinking about food and ingestion, you should be able to think about all the five senses and which ones are being used. And obviously, everything from the crunch of an apple makes a difference to whether or not you're going to choose it over something else. I wanted to see those changes. Um, Overall, there was some students, and obviously I haven't linked back to individual students. I don't know who were these 16 or 28% who would have failed. There was some that just missed questions out. You don't put in a question, you lose the option of a pass or an additional couple of marks to add into your percentage. So never leave a blank is one key thing, particularly for coursework too. And if you know something but you don't know exactly the answer to the question, I can reward you for that knowledge as long as it has some element of relevance there. So it wasn't checking your knowledge. It was just saying, remember, you need to know these things. You need to bring that expectation of GCSE biology with you.
Excellent. Let's go back to the chat. Okay. I feel like maybe not many people are watching today, but that's fine. So, guys, if you do have questions,
put them on the discussion board. That's what it's there for.
Discussion board or today, and we can link the two up. So
absolutely. So bring them here. If you send anything here and I'm not here anymore, then Mike can forward them on. But the discussion board I am monitoring every couple of days. Not many people are putting things up there. There's a lot of people coming up to the office, which is always lovely to see you. But sometimes I am seriously stressed in the office. So apologies if you get a blunt, I've got to be somewhere else email. But yeah, I'm happy to see you and I'm happy to sort of answer questions. But please do also download and use the guidance that's up there. There are lots of people that are asking me about the word limit, for example, and it's on there, and I can see that's just come through. So yes, it is 2,500 words as a maximum. Yes, you can do plus or minus 10%, but if you've only got 2,000 words, that doesn't mean you're going to fail. So concise writing is a really, really important skill, and I'd really encourage that.
Okay, cool.
All right, no worries.
Yeah. Let's put back to our interview sort of scene. We're very cozy in here today. Yep. So here we are. There we are. We're all friends here. So thank you very much for coming down. Claire has indicated that you should go to the discussion board if you have any more questions about this thing. But obviously you've got the guidance there. Make sure you use the resources you have available to on Blackboard. We're going to say goodbye to Claire now. There's going to be a little 2-minute pause just while I sort myself out. Yeah, and then we'll use the usual format that we usually use, and we'll go from there. But thank you very much.
No worries. You're very welcome. Good luck. Enjoy them.
Okay, guys. 2 minutes. Okay, guys. Thank you for your patience and understanding while I just sort myself out. But yeah, welcome to episode 4 of SEN Stream. It was really nice to have Claire just come in and have a chat to you guys about that first coursework one. I'm hoping to going to do the same for Teddy's module. So research methods 1. I'm going to invite Teddy in just to have a look at what the deal is for his CASP review. So bear with me on that one. I just need to arrange a time to either record an interview with him or get him live on likely next Thursday. So that'll be in week 7. But what we're going to do is we'll move on to our main topic of today, which will be looking at the different modules. Then we're going to have a look at a few other different bits and pieces, and we'll go from there. So let me just change my view. Oh, disaster. Just 1 second. I'll tell you what, we might have to do it from this view just for today. Here we go. Okay. So, this week we had nutrition performance. You had the second session with me for looking at substrate usage during exercise. Now, I thought it was a pretty good session. There was a marked increase in improvement in your ability to use the Douglas bags for substrate usage analysis. Now, really do take to solidify your understanding and knowledge. First of all, I've put up a paper, the Ask You Can Drop and Gaz Wallace 2005 paper, which looks at the calculations for determining substrate usage during exercise. Now, if you really want to solidify your knowledge, this paper goes through how exactly you develop those equations, and then how in that particular paper they've tried to differentiate between low intensity exercise and high intensity exercise for both fat and carbohydrate oxidation. Now, have a look at the paper. If you're really interested in that topic area, it would be a fantastic paper for you to follow up with and just have a look. So have a look. The second point is I've also now created a second Google form of which you will be able to submit your substrate usage analysis. So I'll touch on this later on. We might have I'll bring the screen up and just have a quick look. But yeah, essentially you'll be able to use the form, the gas calculation form, in order to determine what substrates you've used. Once you've done that, you can then submit your first bag and your second bag for your participant. So I've just asked you to submit your height and your weight, so at least you can then match up the original data collection with the new data collection sheet. And at least you then have some data which you can use for practicing statistics with, for example. But I'll touch on that afterwards. But looking ahead to week 4, Jane has passed on some updates for you. So first of all, your session this next week will be looking at the effects of dehydration or mild dehydration on cognitive function. And you'll be taking some measures of hydration status. So she's going to be putting up the practical schedule in Blackboard in good time. So have a read of the practical schedule and make sure you turn up prepared before the session. Now, she's going to need 5 people to exercise. Now, obviously, during a dehydration exercise protocol, you're probably going to sweat. So if you are going to basically I'd encourage you all, or at least 5 of you, if you know who's going to be exercising, to bring a spare change of clothes with you. You'll be able to get changed afterwards, and this shower is available if you need to use them as well. So, but basically, come prepared to exercise. Recommendation is to bring a change of clothes because of the dehydration strategy. She's also requested that those of you who have got your own devices, so either an iPad or a laptop, I suspect would be appropriate. I think most mobile phones would be able to handle what she's asking you to do, but iPad or laptop would be ideal. She needs at least 5 of them, probably 1 for each group, so you can do the data collection during the session. So if you are able to bring one with you, please do. It will help with the session, and it'll just keep things moving forward. The last thing, some good news from Jane. Basically, well done for engaging with the practical session so far. And yeah, I agree. I think the 2 sessions that I've done with you all so far have been excellent. Engagement's been great. The questions have been really high level for the first few weeks of semester. That's really good. So keep it coming, basically. Make sure you attend, turn up, ask questions, challenge the staff. That's what we're here for. If we're not being challenged, then we get a little bit bored. So I'll just have a flick over to the chat session just to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay, again, I just encourage you all, if you are watching live and you have a question about any of the modules I can try and follow up or fill in any gaps, then please ask them. I'll try and address them as we move forward. Okay, let's head back. The next module I will talk about will be practitioner skills for sports nutritionists. Let's just wait for it to come up. So obviously this is with Sanjoy. This week he had in a doctor, sorry, her name escapes me and I do apologize, but she was working on communication skills with you, so hopefully you found that session interesting. Looking ahead to next week, you will have a session with Liza and Jessica. Liza's going to be talking about the theory of food choices and why we eat what we eat, so that falls directly within Liza's specialty, and we'll give you some interesting insights as to why, as a nation, as a population, as individuals, are we making decisions about food choices based on its availability and such like. So she's going to talk to you about that. Jessica will then come in and talk to you about the ideas of principles of behavior change. So when you're undertaking a nutritional intervention with a client or an athlete or whoever it's going to be, you're going to essentially try and convince them that you're going to change their behavior. And that could be through a weight loss strategy. It could be supplementing in addition to what they're doing. It could be increasing the amount of fresh fruit and vegetables, reducing saturated fat contents in their diet. Whatever it is, you're asking them to change what they usually do, what have they done possibly for all their lives, or what's considered normal to them, or what maybe their parents have suggested that a healthy diet consists of. So how can you influence that behavior, and how can you then encourage athletes to take on those interventions and change to the practices that you are suggesting? So head across to the session with Sanjoy. You will find Jessica and Liza are going to take on that session, and then you can go from there. Now, the next module, I believe, is concepts and principles, but we've had a good chat from Claire there. Now, hopefully you've got a bit of a better insight as to how you can tackle that coursework one. Now, I know Claire's an excellent tutor. She will be giving you lots of support and guidance as to how to ensure that you navigate that first coursework one as best as you can. But hopefully you found that little short interview entertaining, if anything, but useful as well to pick up any common errors and issues that you have. Now, I've got an exclusive, guys. I'd be excited to. Now, you're going to be doing some critical readings for this module. Now, I actually have a copy of the paper that you're going to be doing your critical reading on, assuming that you choose the one that is most appropriate, well, most aligned to the sport and exercise nutrition pathway. So this is the paper here. It's from the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition, and it's the critical evaluation of food intake and energy balance in young modern pentathlon athletes, a cross-sectional study. Now, this is the paper. If you choose to choose this particular paper of the three, you'll go into a room. I think I'm going to be at this session as well. So come across, get involved, and read this ahead of time, and take that critical approach that Claire has been working on with you to see what you think of the paper. So exclusive here, this is the paper for the sport and exercise nutrition lot. If you want to use some of the other ones, that's absolutely fine. But if you choose this one, this is the one that I'll be covering in the session, and we can have a chat about it then. Okay, let's go back over to our slides. Claire has already done the initial feedback, so I'll touch on that in a second. Just once again, but Jessica is doing her additional support sessions as well. There is details about this on the Concepts Blackboard site. Now, this week she's provided you with a worksheet on iron metabolism to work through, and it's on Tuesday morning that she's going to work through the answers to that. Jessica has also very kindly provided the answers, or some model answers, to the different tasks that she's set for previous weeks. So if you are following Jessica's additional training and you're attending those Tuesday morning sessions with her, then that's just a signpost that there's more content available that you can get access to, and that she's already provided some model answers that she would expect you guys to kind of answer. So check that out and have a look. Now, Claire did touch on the concepts initial assessment that she did, but I'll put them up here again. If you just give me 1 second, guys, while I sort out this other slide, because it means that I should be able to share this slightly larger, and I'm not sure why it's delinked it, but just bear with me. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay. Tiny mic, big text. That's what we want. So what I want you to take away from this is that you will obviously have, if you were one of the 57 that attempted the quiz, that you would have had your mark back straight away. Now, this just gives you context as to, out of those 57 people that attempted the quiz, this was the average score, and you saw that the standard deviation there was about 2.71. Now, from your research methods for health sciences 1 module, you're starting to do descriptive statistics, and you should have a better appreciation for what a standard deviation means if you don't do already. You can see there that the minimum mark that was submitted was 5 out of 20 and the maximum mark was 17 out of 20. So no one got a perfect score, but also no one completely fluffed the whole thing. Someone at least got 5 marks, which is better than nothing. So the minimum score would have been a 25% and the maximum would have been an 85. So pass rates for assessments on level 7 modules is 50%. So if you score 48, you fail and have to resit. And there's various different rules and regulations. Check out the course handbook if you're concerned about that. But essentially, 50% and above would be considered a pass rate, and 85% would be considered a very high distinction. So basically, I'm just giving you context. You'll know what your score is. Have a look as to how you fit into the whole cohort. It will also give you an indication as to whether you're kind of doing well in relation to your peers. It will also give you an indication as to whether you need to do a little bit more work in relation to your peers. I don't know what your scores were. Only Claire knows that based off your email. If you've only used your email, then it's your student number, so she would have to go to the effort of looking up individual student numbers, which I can tell you now, Claire doesn't have the time to do that. So yeah, use it for your own purposes, and whether you need to spend a little bit more time directing your studies to help improve that kind of score, then it kind of informs you from there. But without this, it doesn't give you any context. You just get a score and you go, well, I don't really know what that means. But at least you know your score in relation to the 57 other people that took it. So anyway, let's move it on. So on to, I believe, research methods for health sciences 1. Yes. So next week's session, it's a strange one, this, because I'm fairly certain you have this on a Wednesday, I believe, but so it's concepts that you'll be following up with the stuff that I talked about last week. But yeah, this is a Wednesday session. So next week you will be reviewing your stats exercise 1. So you've been asked to do a exercise following the stats session that you did on Wednesday this week. So moving into next week, you will be asked to review that exercise, and you will continue to work on the idea of descriptive statistics, confidence intervals, and normal distribution. Now you now have your own novel data sets. So during nutrition performance, you would have collected various different data sets of which you can then start to characterize. So if you wanted a practice data set to use for doing some of your statistical analysis in your own time, that would be a perfect data set to do that, particularly considering that we still have the data that was submitted from last year's practicals as well. You now can start to do some descriptive statistics and start to characterize, say, how many individuals on the module were, well, mean standard deviation or even standard error of the mean for height, for example, or weight. You also have power output that the individuals were using on the bike. Then you have the volume of gas that's been collected on each of the Douglas bags. You could start to do some statistical comparisons between the volume in bag 1 and the volume in bag 2. These are all legitimate comparisons that could be made. And also, it's useful to do it with a data set that you've personally collected, because you know where the data has come from, and you don't need to worry about what the data means, because you've already kind of established that. You've got that in your head. You can just focus on the comparison that you're actually trying to make. Is one of the challenges when you run a stats course, is that you're trying to use data sets that everyone will universally understand, which can be challenging when you have a diverse student group sat in front of you. However, if the students use their own data sets that they've collected in different modules, like nutrition performance, for example, you can kind of go, I understand what this data means. Now I'm going to apply some various different statistical models to that data set. So go ahead, use it. Make sure you copy it from the Google Sheet. Don't edit the Google Sheet itself. It'll edit for everyone, I think. So the final thing to say about research methods for health sciences 1 would be to just keep an eye out for your CASP hand-in. So that would be coursework 1 for this module. That's in week 7. So in week 3 now, you've got a month to submit that. These dates creep up on you, so I'm just keeping you aware. You've got your module, so you've got your assessment map on the course website to just have a look at. It gives you a little bit of context as to what's being handed in and when. It's good to do a little bit and often on assessments like this, so just keep chipping away at it. Don't leave it all to the last minute. I'm going to try and get Teddy in to do an interview, like I said. We'll either do that via a recording, which I'll put out on the live stream, or I'll try and get him into the room live like we did with Claire. We're going to work on the production of the interviews. It wasn't great this week, so bear with me. Okay, I think we're looking at PATS now. Yep, so the PATS session on a Tuesday from 12 till 2. This week you'll be looking at group work and presentations with Regina. So working in groups and setting the rules and developing effective teams. Now, this is a life skill more than anything else. It allows you to look at ways that you can make effective teams. Now, if you were going to be working in a professional sporting high performance team, that's your end goal, then being able to effectively work in a team is key. Similarly, presentation skills, I suspect if you continue to work on in a sport and exercise nutrition capacity, you'll either have to be presenting to clients, presenting to prospective clients, or presenting to teams where you've got a good working relationship with them, and you're trying to, say, look at carbohydrate ingestion strategies for football players at half time. There's something off the top of my head. You'll need to be able to present information effectively. Now, looking ahead to semester 2, you'll have at least 2 key presentations that you'll need to deliver. One will be in assessment of health and fitness. You'll be looking at an ergogenic aid, I believe. And the next one would be to present your design study. So your design study will be the proposal that you put forward for your dissertation. Now, being able to effectively communicate and present and have different presentation skills will be key for those 2 different those assessments in semester 2. So don't think, well, I'm not doing any presentations this semester. You will be doing later on the line, and you will be doing it for the rest of your career as well. So have a look. If you can make the PAT session, get across there. Hopefully you're finding them useful. If you've got any feedback on the PAT sessions that you want to pass on, then do pass it on, and I can try and address any issues and concerns. So before I move on, I'm going to head back over to the chat. Okay, no more questions, which I think suggests that not many people are watching, or that basically I'm covering all the points. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing a great job. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, I will keep coming back and checking just to make sure we are all on the same page. I think, oh, I have one final point to mention on this thing. Now, I've had, first of all, Dana, thank you for representing or putting her name forward for the part-time course, year 2 students. So there's 4 of you guys. Dana is the only person who's come forward just to indicate that she would be keen to represent the student body. So I will put out a vote and just make sure the other 3 students are happy with that. But I know you guys are fairly tight, keep in good contact with each other. For the full-time course, I haven't had any responses yet, so I will get to the point where I just turn up to a session and point at someone randomly in the room, and you will become the course rep. I'm kind of half joking there, but it would be really nice if someone wants to represent the student voice. Then please do let me know via email as soon as you can, because I need to present the names of someone so that we know that we're getting student input on the course. It's very important that you guys are integrated into the feedback mechanisms for the modules themselves, but also for the course as a whole, so that if there is any problems and concerns or issues, then at least we can address them during the semester rather than after the course when everyone's sort of unhappy because something didn't get sorted out. So we can only sort out stuff that we know about. We can find out what doesn't work if we have a student rep. So if that's you think, oh, I'm not sure, just send me an email. We can go from there. It's not that much work. So let me know if that's you. So let's move things on a little bit. We're going to head across to some of the browsers here. Just 1 second. Now, I think we've covered everything so far. I unfortunately haven't had chance to do a tweet of the week this week. However, I will do 2 tweets of the week next week. Also, it's officially employment week or employability week at the university this week. So what I would say is I'm going to post up a few extra bits and pieces on the employability section of the My Route course. So let's just have a look on here and how you can find out more about that. So let's pop this on. This is not what I wanted. Just 1 second. Let's go on my discussion view. I'm gonna have to leave it small, I'm afraid, guys. I'm having issues today. So you can see very small here. I know it's not ideal. You'll probably have to boost this up a little bit. But when I go down, I find my sport and exercise nutrition pathway at the bottom here. Just let me see if I can quickly fix this because it's kind of driving me mad. Let's have a look. Okay, I think we're there. Here we are. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I've gone on to my route, sport and exercise nutrition. Just be aware that this is specific to full-time and part-time, so they are mirrored as closely as possible, but sometimes then they might be labeled something slightly different, but the two are identical. You can then move down to the section here, just above my head. Here is employability. Click on employability. Now, for previous years, I've posted different job opportunities that have come up later on in the year, so there might be a bit of overhang there. You can see there's also some PhD opportunities. There's Student Engagement Week 1 materials, Enhance Your Employability. These are from last year. A lot of them will still be relevant. If we click on Enhance Your Employability, I'm going to add a few extra different pieces to this section here. Now, you can already see there's the potential potentially is the whole thing, but .ly. This is a nice fun activity for you to do a little bit of personality mapping and identifying what your strengths and weaknesses are as well. I say here, if you haven't tried it, give it a go. I tried it and it was piercingly insightful. It gave me a list of people that I wouldn't likely get on with and how to deal with that. And that, no, I'm joking. That list was fairly short, but it turns out there are specific different personality traits that each individual would find challenging. So it's not just specific to me; it would be specific to everyone. And it helps you identify those and sort of address them and move on. So check it out, have a look. Then you've got the Career Support Center, Career Development Center, the CEC as well. I also mentioned last week the extra training opportunity with regards to the partnership program. So have a look at that and check it out. And we'll go from there. So I just take one last shot to have a look at the live chat, and we've got a few questions. So here we go. Let me just have a quick read. Okay, so a question here regarding the substrate usage form. I have tried to use the form for your substrate usage yesterday, but couldn't do it. Any chance you can quickly go through that again? Where the input data? Thank you. Sorry for the many questions. Madeline, if we didn't have your questions, the chat function would be irrelevant. So it would be nice to get a few more if anyone is lurking in the background, biting their tongue. I'm thinking Ed, you're the kind of guy who'd be sat in the background thinking, I've got a question here, but I'm not sure if I should post it. So if you got it, post it, man. Just get on it. Right, let me swap to my presenter view. We'll get up the gascalc form and we'll go from there. So I'm going to head to my nutrition performance level 7. Just find that. Level 6. Here we go. Then I'm going to head to study materials. I'll head to week 2, macronutrients focusing on carbohydrates, 2nd of October. Then we'll head down to the practical schedule, like the week 2 practical schedule. 2 things to highlight here. First of all, you've got the metabolism lab here, the metabolism lab 2, which is the gascalc form. So I'm going to click on that in a second. You've also got this the ASCII you can draw from Gaz Wallace paper, the substrate usage. So let's go through the calculations first. Now, first and foremost, my computer is going to allow me to view this in a browser, and I will just highlight that if you do that, it will not show you any of the little gascalc explanations and such like. So my advice is to just hit download. It will bring it down at your little bar down here, and then you can view it. Once you open it in actual Excel, you will be able to see the comments which explain lots of different things. Now, this is just opened on my second monitor down here, so just bear with me. Okay, you'll see my poor file management skills here, but that's fine. Here we go. Enable editing so you can have a look. So, first and foremost, there are 3 sheets at the bottom. I had this problem last time, but down here, where you can see the different sheets of your Excel spreadsheet, you can see there's a gascalc explanation, there's a gascalc blank. If I click on that one, the comments change, and you can see that you can enter data here. Then you've got your gascalc example data, whereby there's a study that's described in the first box in here, and then there's an explanation for what all of these different things means. So let's go to the gascalc explanation. Now, if you put numbers into this section, it will work as well. But essentially, what you want to do when you add data to this section or this sheet is you want to use the gray boxes only, okay? All of this stuff here is simply calculations, all right? So I can put in my subject ref, so I'm going to put in me, the ambient temperature of this room, 21 degrees, my weight, this is embarrassing. So I reckon I'm about 83 kilos, which is flattering. I'd say, you know, maybe I was holding a stack of helium balloons when I did that, but it's fine. I'm dealing with it mentally. Here we are. Let's put the date in. Humidity, let's go 75%. Atmospheric pressure, let's go 746. Again, you will have your measured versions. 183 centimeters tall. The time of day today would be 11:57. Perfect. So the stage minutes refers to the different times. Now, you technically collected for 1 minute, so we could actually put 1 minute in here, okay? That has implications for this section here, energy used during the stage, because it will calculate how much energy you've expended for 1 minute's worth of exercise. Now, in theory, if you could collect for 5 minutes, you would put 5 minutes in there. So just a heads up. Now, I don't have any data to dwell on, but what I could do, if I go back to the Blackboard site, I'm going to split my screen in half now. If I go back to the Blackboard site and just minimize this as well, we can have our, so let's just have a quick look to see if anyone has submitted the oxidation rates. So that would be super helpful if they did. Okay, no responses yet. Guys, need to up your game. No, I'm joking. I only posted this the other day, but when I get some responses, that would be good to see. But let's use the raw data that we collected during the day. And I'm just going to pick out one at random. So we'll use someone's data. So we'll use this bottom line here. Perfect. So you can see here, okay, I'm just going to edit this data. So we'll go 22.4. Atmospheric pressure, we weren't too far off, but 757. It's 58, we round up, 758, excellent. We have a female, the humidity was 34, oops, sorry, I'm doing this wrong. And if we keep scrolling across, got some extra data here. So, height 160.1. And we got our weight 56. Here we are, sorry, 56.2. Excellent. We cycled at 80 RPM. The weight on the Monit bike was 1 kilo. And then for the second stage was 3 kilos for these guys, which gave a, okay, you didn't have to calculate the power outputs, but you could do that if you wanted to. Then we got some heart rates. Then we got our RPE for stage 1 and 2. We're just going to concentrate on the oxygen content, CO2 content, corrected bag volume, and the bag, and then we've got the other stuff. Okay, let's put some data in. So bag volume to start with here. For this participant was 39 liters. Okay, time sampled for was 60 seconds. The ambient temperature of the sample, by the time you've analyzed it, is likely to be the same as the room. So we'll go for 22.4. And the oxygen content for this bag was 16.67. Sorry, 97. And the CO2 content was 4.43. Now, when you think about these values, we know the room value here is about 20.9 or 21% oxygen content. And the CO2 content is 0.05 at the room. So we can see oxygen here in comparison to the room has gone down, which makes sense because you've extracted the oxygen from the room. You've utilized it for substrate usage. We know you've utilized it for substrate usage because we can see here that the CO2 content has gone up from 0.05, which means that the oxygen molecules that were originally consumed have been converted into CO2 molecules because a carbon molecule has been added to the 2 oxygen molecules. Now, let's have a look at what the calculation comes out with. So the first thing I would look at here is the RER value, because that gives me the ratio of CO2 to O2 content. We can already see here that this person was working particularly hard. Now, I reckon if I go and have a look at this was for bag 1. If I look at their RPE, it's 11. Now, either this person was lying or it's quite low. So 11 gives you somewhat hard. It's the start of somewhat hard on the RPE scale. We can see there that it jumps up to 18 in the second exercise. The heart rates here were 182. The heart rate in the first one, 156. Okay, so I'm just doing a little bit of sense checking as to why we'd have an RER value that's so high. So as I said in the practical session, an RER score of 1 or greater means that you're producing CO2 molecules from non-oxidative sources, which means that then when we look at our carbohydrate and oxidations, we can see that we start getting some strange values. Now, Ed, or Edward, or Ted, sorry, there's 3 or 4 Edwards, 9 Edwards, I don't know how many there are, there's a lot of you, highlighted that he interpreted this value and said, well, I'm putting on fat mass, which is a kind of funny way of looking at it, to be honest with you, suggesting that he was putting on 0.32 grams a minute every minute of exercise, which would be, obviously that's not happening. But what it means is that we can't say with any certainty that we know what their full energy expenditure has come from, because it's not just exclusively carbohydrate metabolism through oxidative phosphorylation anymore. We're bringing in non-oxidative sources of energy production, such as glycolysis, and therefore that's why we see our energy. So our carbohydrate usage here was 144%, whereas our fat usage, again, we can't account for it because we're now at the upper end of exercise intensity. We're utilizing carbohydrate oxidation, but we can't account for all of the energy produced during this 1 minute exercise bout simply through carbohydrate oxidation. So this is possibly not a good example, but the question was, how do I put my data in? You would populate the gray bars, the gray boxes here and the gray boxes here. I could put my second bag here, and I can add the values in underneath it. So you just need to go through. Now, if you're not sure what it means, you can read these comments when you've downloaded the form, and you can see where these calculations come from. Now, interestingly, on this comment here, I've given the rates of metabolism for carbohydrate and fat oxidation, which is a sensible thing to do, because it allows you to look at that, where the values come from, how you can take your VO2 values and your CO2 values and multiply them by known factors. So this is from this original paper here, which I suspect Gaz will mention in his paper that I've posted on the Blackboard site. So just check it out, read all the comments, put your data in. You can put it on any of the sheets, but you've got a blank sheet here, so you can put your own data into there, and then start to look at a few different data sets. So in theory, you could actually copy and paste those cells into it, as long as you make sure that you are putting the right cells in the right places and you know which cell refers to what. So in theory, you could just copy and paste the whole of this cell into there, and you would get all lines of the calculations performed for you in all the different bags for the different participants. One factor to consider there, though, is that always you can't change the weights for each of those. So maybe you could only do that for the 2 bags. So that was a silly suggestion. But if you just wanted to do the cold hard calculations, you weren't too concerned about the subject's height and weight, which in some of the calculations it will take into consideration. For example, this one here, because it's by milliliters per kilogram per minute, it will take into it. If I double click on this cell, it is selecting weight as a factor because it's going to divide by weight. So just bear that in mind when you do that. Anyway, I feel like I've been rambling non-stop now for a little while. Let's go back to the questions. Okay, no more questions, which is possibly a good thing. So hopefully that little rundown of the gascalc sheet has helped. If there's any questions, concerns, queries, please do send me an email and I will try and address them. But hopefully, once again, you found this useful. I will be able to dock my Boris bike next week, because that was the issue today. I had to go all the way to Soho and walk back, which was not helpful. So anyway, logistics aside, hopefully you found it useful. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Take it easy, enjoy concepts this afternoon, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy, guys.